cosmic consciousness, extraterrestrials and UFOs, sacred geometry, ancient civilizations, spiritual connection, the quantum universe. All of these topics and so much more with your host, Sev Tuck, on Alien Spirit with Sev.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Alien Spirit. I'm Sev. My guest today is Ella LeBain. She's a researcher, historian, author, Bible scholar, ET experiencer, and a near-death experiencer. She's been involved in the field of UFO research for 45 years, investigating abductions and paranormal activities. She was educated in Israel, studying biblical Hebrew and science, and is educated in astronomy and cosmology as well. Ella combines her education and research to help answer the profound questions of our reality. Some questions Ella answers are: who are Earthling humans? Where did we come from? Are there aliens living on Earth as intra-dimensionals? Are we humans, aliens, or hybrid aliens ourselves? Are Star Wars and Star Trek based on factual reality? How is UFO disclosure and end times connected? And why is reincarnation suppressed by Christians? Ella has written 7 books covering a wide range of topics, facts, and theories. The titles are Who's Who in the Cosmic Zoo of ETs and Aliens, which I have, and this is like a textbook. If you're curious about any alien that you've ever heard about, it'll be in here. You can just look it up. Who is God? Who are the angels? Covenants, the heavens, Heaven's Witness, the cosmic slingshot. Ella is a wealth of information, so get ready because she might just shift your whole reality. Welcome, Ella LeBain.
Thanks for having me, Steph. It's good to see you.
This is going to be fun. I almost don't even know where to start. There's so much. You are definitely a researcher, capital R, and you've been doing that for a long time. And you combine a variety of genres and science and religion and astronomy and astrology, and you just weave them together and you come up with these fascinating books that are just filled with information. And I have this one. I bought this when we met at the UFO con in San Francisco in 2023.
That's right.
And this is a textbook. This is always by my bed. It's a really good one. You have a couple books coming up too. Your newest book, The Cosmic Slingshot, right here.
Oh,
Connecting dots to reincarnation in the Bible, alien abductions, and end times prophecies. I really want to talk about those topics. To begin with, though, Ella, where did you grow up?
I was born in New York City. So I grew up in Queens and Long Island until I was 15. And then they sent me to boarding school in Israel. So I completed my education there. And then I went to South Africa for 2 years to as a social worker, assisting missionaries in apartheid. That was before everything changed. So I had a lot of supernatural experiences there that imprinted me for life.
Oh, like what? Can you tell us one of them?
There was a woman who, 23 years old, Zulu, in Zululand, Kwasiza Bantu, where I was staying for 6 months.
Oh, wow.
And she was sick with a kidney disease. And everyone was praying for her, to get well. And she died. It was one of those things where, they started to do the funeral rituals and cover her up and put her in a room. And it was about an hour and a bit later, after they pronounced her dead, that she just woke up.
Oh my God.
Okay. And like healed, completely healed. I mean, she was so diseased, her whole body, failed, and 23 years old. It was kind of tragic, but then she just woke up completely awake, aware, perfectly healthy. And she had told everyone the story, what happened to her when she went to the other side and she saw Jesus. And she was like at the bottom of this mountain. He was on the top of the mountain, and she was going to meet him, and she was walking up the mountain. And he said, this is as far as you can come right now. And I'm going to heal you. I'm going to put you back. But, and he pointed out that she had these like chains around her ankle, like, kind of like silver necklace chains, not like heavy chains. And each one of those chains, he told her, represented her resentments. Okay. And that was why she got sick. And he wanted her to know that he forgives her, and he wants her to go back and forgive her family because of what, her resentments towards them. And that to tell everybody, that he loves everyone, that he's real, and he forgives, but you have to make things right. You have to reconcile, you have to repent, all those messages. And I was 18 years old when that happened. And it just imprinted me for life because, I had a lot of resentments too, because of my childhood and what was done to me. So, yeah, that kind of set the tone. Still is. I mean, 45 years later, I'm still working on forgiveness. I purpose and choose to forgive so and so. And when I went through that myself, my own, deliverance, so to speak, and healing, I got well through affirming forgiveness for people that, is hard to forgive in your natural flesh, but with God, all things are possible. So that was an emotional.
That's extraordinary. So she came back and she forgave her family?
Yes. And she, I mean, she was completely healed. That was the other astonishing part of it, was that he healed her like instantly. So I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. Well, tell us about your own near-death experience.
Yeah, so I was going through these traumas with my next door. And it's a long story. The next door neighbors, I was getting harassed on a regular basis. I had a young child at home, 7 and 8. This happened during that year. And they had all these dogs, and they were like barking, and I couldn't sleep. And it went on for 15 months. They finally moved out. It took me years to sort of get my peace back. And what had happened was just adrenal exhaustion. So like, when you're under stress, your adrenal glands pump out a lot of adrenaline. And then after a while, it expires. There's nothing left. I was fresh out of adrenaline. So the adrenals start pumping out cortisol, and it caused a heart attack. So too much cortisol going around your blood can do that. And so this was February 7th of 2010. And so this was the aftermath of these traumas. This is what had happened to me. And so, yeah, I blacked out, and I was sent to the hospital and put on those heart machines. And I saw my parents, both of them together. And that was the last time I saw them together was when I was 6 years old. So I thought, oh my God, I must be dead, because they passed. My mother passed when I was 6, and my father, I was estranged from, and he passed in 2007. So this was 3 years later. And then a hand took me, I just felt this hand, and it lifted me into this other space. And it was this like emerald green grass field with a bluebird sky. And it was just him and he was holding my hand, and we were walking and talking, and it was Yeshua. And, when I looked at him, like I felt like I had known him forever. Like he wasn't anybody new. He was, my old familiar father, or, brother, or I don't know. He was just a close, and it was Yeshua. And it was not the first time I've seen him, because he showed up to me in the Negev desert after I graduated in Israel in July of 1979. And that's kind of like when everything started for me, because I was like the first vision I had. And that was in the broad daylight, 3:00 in the afternoon. He just came out of the sun, and he stood there and he said, "I am the Messiah, follow me." And I was like, okay, 18 years old. And I mean, I'm in a Jewish school learning, the Hebrew Bible. Jews are indoctrinated to reject Christ. And there he is showing up for me. So I was in a bit of a dilemma. And I was engaged to this Jewish man who was in the school, who came originally from Rhodesia, but the family was in South Africa, and I was on my way to South Africa to meet his family and start our lives. And that never took off, because they couldn't accept the fact that I believed that Yeshua was Messiah. So, I kind of took so that my whole Jewish family excommunicated me over that.
Oh my gosh, how did you deal?
Well, with God, all things are possible. So I just pressed in to my faith, because I knew what I had seen and what I had heard. And, long story short, I'm kind of going back in time, but that led up to when I saw him again. I've seen him a few times along the way, but the near-death experience was more intense, because there was a lot of walking and talking. And that was really what I believe the download of Who's Who in the Cosmic Zoo, because I was writing that first book that you held up, the one about the ETs and the aliens. It's kind of an A to Z compendium. So I wrote it for experiencers so that they could look up and see, maybe discern who they had experiences with. And I've been doing that since the 90s. And then, so when I had this walk and talk and this during the near-death experience, he told me, it was very clear, it was like a marching order: I want you to rewrite your book with me in it. So I did, and it's turned into 7 books. So he's woven into everything. And it's kind of like, I'm like a Venn diagram. My therapist called me a Venn diagram. So those 3 circles.
Mm-hmm.
In the middle, that's me in the middle. Mm-hmm. So I've got like 1 foot in one camp, 1 foot in the other camp, and another, I don't know if you have a 3rd foot, but so because the religious piece, there's a lot of answers in the Bible. Like if you take the Bible as a historical record, it is one of our best historical accounts of extraterrestrial visitation, intervention, and warfare that we have, that we can reference to. Unfortunately, religious people, have covered a lot of that up and, twisted things and distorted things, so it's not easily seen by, like, for instance, English speakers, because, the Bible in English doesn't really tell the whole story that is evidenced in the Hebrew. For instance, there's a whole cast of characters of different gods and beings that are completely covered up in the English Bible. So if an English person is reading the whole Bible from beginning to end, they just think it's one God. So that's why people come away and they go, well, God says this, and then God says that's a contradiction. And then they sort of talk themselves out of having faith because of that. And so what I have done is unpack this, like in the 2nd book, Who is God? And I basically show that there's this whole cast of characters. And so if you see that it's a cast of characters and that there's, dramas going on, then it makes sense that it's not one God contradicting himself. It's actually several gods challenging the God of gods.
Many gods challenging a main god?
Yes. Well, so the way things are set up, and this is all evidenced, it's all written in the scriptures, is that we have it's an old Hermetic law, as above, so below. I'm sure you've heard that, right? So just like we have courts on earth, there's courts in heaven. There is the court of heaven. And so in the book of Job, Job 1 and Job 2, it literally says that the Elohim, which has been mistranslated throughout the Old Testament as God, G-O-D, singular, but it's actually a plurality. It means gods with an S at the end of it. So that says the gods, there's sons of gods, sons of the gods. Okay, so you're getting like a gradual kind of hierarchy thing going on there. And then Satan, who is the Hebrew word, it means adversary or prosecutor or, rebel. So it says that, the Elohim and Satan went to the courts of heaven and accused Job. Okay, so it was almost like a trial. And there's a lot to be said about that whole experience and that whole, what happened to him. And, it's also evidence of past lives, too. Another piece that has been completely suppressed by English Bibles and by modern, Christianity, and that all comes from the Church of Rome. So through replacement theology, so 571 AD, they decided to take it out. But I prove in this book, The Cosmic Slingshot, that it was the belief of the early church. All of the early church fathers, they all talked about it. They wrote about it. Jesus talked about it. The disciples discussed it with him. The Pharisees, there's a conversation between one of the Pharisees and Jesus about who, past lives and reincarnation and who was he. So, all these pieces I've put together proving that this has been not only a belief, but a reality from the beginning of when we were, when the Anunnaki downgraded, because that is my assessment based on my research from the Sumerian, the early Bible, is that the early Earth humans, we were created, like you mentioned that at the beginning about Earth humans, we were created in the image and likeness of the gods, plural. And we had at one point everything. Okay. And I come full circle in this book. I end it with the memories that many of us have of the ancient civilizations of Atlantis and why people are back on Earth right now, because history is repeating itself. And so, there's a lot to be unpacked there, but suffice to say that the early humans had all 12 strands of DNA operating, kind of like what we would today call superhuman, the ability to hear, to see the energy fields. Mm-hmm. So most of us, we just go through our daily lives, third dimensional reality, and, it's just the five senses. And most of us can't see our true selves, which is our soul and our energy body and our spirit body. So I always like to say, I am not in my body. My body is in me, because that's the part that lives on. Yeah. And most of us can't see that with the natural eye. So you got to do exercises and work on things and, all that kind of stuff. But that's because the DNA was downgraded. So this is all part of this long story.
And are you saying the Anunnaki downgraded our DNA?
Yes.
Intentionally?
Yes. For
what reason?
Great question. So, one, to create a slave race so that that the humans had just enough intelligence to follow orders, understand, how to do this, that, and the other thing, but not that they took the powers away from them that would have made them, what some people would say were like on the God level or superpowers or superhumans. And they didn't want us to have that power. Okay, so this is evidenced by the shift in the beginning, from the beginning of the Bible. All those people at the beginning, there's all these genealogies, like this one begat that one, and then they all lived to be like 900 and something. Methuselah lived to be 969, and then the floods of Noah came, and after that, nobody lived past 100 or 90. Our telomeres go up to 120. So something happened between that time that I call a down, like that's what they call it, the fall of humankind. And that has to do with all those curses that were doled out, in Genesis on the earth, on women, on men, and the DNA. The DNA was downgraded. So that is the true fall of humankind. And that's what we're all struggling to get back. So, New Agers will call it the ascension and wiring up those, because when the geneticists look at our DNA, they have for decades looked at us and we say we have 2 strands of DNA, and then they call this other piece junk DNA.
I know.
But God, it's not junk, it's just disabled. Okay, so if you take that back, and then this is where Yeshua comes in, because he has made the promise to restore humankind, restore us back to our original, what I call glory bodies, where all 12 strands of DNA are operating, everybody is seeing clearly, hearing clearly, operating in what we would term today as like superpowers. But, they've just been suppressed. So this is all part of the redemption that he promises to deliver at the end of this age. Does that make sense?
Yes. I mean, I have a lot of questions about how all this happens. But I'm going to talk about reincarnation. What is it about reincarnation that the Christians found so threatening?
Yeah, great question. So it started out with the Empress of Rome, Theodora, who was married to Justinian. So she started out as a peasant. She was born as a peasant, and then she worked her way up as a prostitute to become the concubine of the emperor, Justinian, who eventually made her the empress. So meanwhile, on the ground, they're working on the editing of the Bible canon. And, they're having these councils and meetings about what should go in, what should go out, how they wanted to frame the Bible. And all the believers and all the scribes and everybody, the chatter was about reincarnation in those days. And it irritated her. She didn't like that because she wanted to be remembered and venerated as a goddess of Rome. The whole pantheon of gods and goddesses, she wanted to be a statue. She wanted, when she died, she didn't want people to think she was a peasant. So she pulled this monk. This is the story that I pulled. It's in the book of the history, because it had to do with these monks that were put in charge of the editing. And so she pulls one of these monks out that had gotten kicked off the council because of his belief about how much Jesus was the Son of God versus the Son of Man. It was kind of like, that's the stuff they were arguing about back then. And like, how many angels can you fit on the head of a pin type thing? And he got ousted. So she pulls him back onto the council, and she orders him to delete all the scriptures that make reference to reincarnation. Well, Seth, one thing we can always count on, and that's human error. So he was only as good as his understanding of the Hebrew, of the language, and all the metaphors that go with it. So suffice to say, he left behind over 24 scriptures, plus a whole chapter of the reincarnation of ancient Israel, Ezekiel 37, the Valley of the Dry Bones, and the words. There's 2 words that Jews use to describe reincarnation, and one of them was coined by King David, actually his wife Abigail, which was kafakela, which literally translates to the cosmic slingshot. So that's the title of this book. And then the other word, yes. And David was famous for killing the giant Goliath with a slingshot. So his wife this started out, he was a musician and he was very poetic and he wrote all these psalms, and his wife inspired him by saying, like when she was comforting him in another drama, that, oh, God is going to send your enemies into the kafakela, into the cosmic slingshot, meaning into the afterlife, to sling back in. And Jews believe, this is a core Jewish belief, that people reincarnate with their loved ones and their enemies. So the enemies come back and things repeat, because in God's higher purpose, he wants to give people a chance to resolve, reconcile, make peace. And this is why Jews believe that people reincarnate for what they call teshuvah, which is correction. So it's not just about punishment, although that's in the mix, but it's also about correcting things, like getting things right, getting relationships right. There's a whole piece that I included in this book, because it comes right out of the Torah, about marriage and covenants. So, King David had a lot to say about that. And then the other word is Gilgulim, which literally translates to wheels within wheels. So, when English people read the Bible, they don't see that. They don't see those words. They're glossed over, they're mistranslated, they're misunderstood. But that's, and it has to do with the wheels of the soul. That the soul goes through these different incarnations and experiences for lots of reasons. Like, it's not just, karma and teshuvah and this. Sometimes it's fulfillment. It's, to come back for unrequited love. It's to come back to do God's mission. Like, it specifically says that the Lord can send prophets back, that he has already tried and tested. They're faithful. He doesn't worry about them going into the world and getting, mixed up and sucked down and lost, because he's got them. So it's kind of a win-win situation. They have nothing to lose because they know that they got God on their back, that what's the worst thing that could happen? They could die. Death is not the end.
That's right.
So there's all this whole level of information that has been suppressed because of what happened in Rome, 571 AD. So it became one of those things like the game telephone. It goes down the line until you get to, here we are in modern times, and Christians, they don't even know why they don't believe in it. They just parrot and reiterate Hebrews 12:7. It's appointed unto man once to die and then the judgment. So I prove that scripture is not only rogue, okay, because in the Bible, the scriptures have to prove scripture. You have to have a match. Like the Old and the New Testament is like a right and a left leg. It has to walk together, match each other, confirm, corroborate. And that one is totally rogue. There's 3 rogue scriptures in the New Testament that have absolutely no match, no relevance to the Torah or the Old Testament, proving that they're rogue, proving that they're Roman agendas, political agendas, which is why I'm in this Venn diagram, because as a Jew, and I do believe that Yeshua is the Messiah, so I have that in common with Christians, but I kind of have problems with the anti-Semitism, their view on women, and their denials of reincarnation, and their misunderstanding of who the aliens are and who they're not. So that's the
Okay.
other, that's the other piece, and this is where the alien spirit comes in, which is
Yeah.
that's you.
Before we get there, though, I really want to ask you a question, and you're the perfect person to ask. And I've been wondering about this for years, actually. I used to work in an accounting firm, and it was primarily Orthodox Jew, a bunch of young men. And the partners were Orthodox Jew, except for one or two.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned so much there. Oh my God. I was constantly asking questions. I found it so fascinating. So one time in the lunchroom, I bring up the topic of reincarnation. And one of the Orthodox Jew young men told me, I asked him, do you believe in reincarnation? He said, yes. I believe that if we do something wrong in this life and we need to be punished, then we come back as a dog. And then the other one told me, I asked another one, I said, do you believe in reincarnation? And he said, yes, but once a Jew, always a Jew. I go, what do you mean? He goes, well, if you're Jewish, you always reincarnate as a Jew. Now, what do you think about those two views from the same group of Orthodox Jewish men? And one thing I realized was, even though they're from the same group, they tend to have different thoughts. And I found that very interesting.
It is. And it's been made a joke. I'll have to repeat this. Rodney Dangerfield, back in the day, used to say, put two Jews in a room and get 10 opinions.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is all part of this long-term problem, and that has to do with all these divisions. So in Judaism, there's like obviously the Torah and the Tanakh, which is, the Old Testament. And out of the Torah, Judaism comes out of the Torah, Christianity comes out of the Torah, and Islam comes out of the Torah. Okay? Because they all base their moral beliefs on the Torah. So we have that in common. It's the other stuff that everyone is split. Okay. And there's a chapter in this book on the Erev Rav. And this is the part of Jews that have basically brought down the rest of the Jews since Moses came out of the Exodus in Egypt. And that's why Kabbalistic rabbis who absolutely believe in reincarnation, because it's in all the books. It's in the Torah, it's in the Tanakh, it's in the Zohar, which is the book of splendor, which was written about the Torah, the mysticism, the cosmology, all of that. And then there's the Talmud and the Mishnah. It's in all these books. So they have different views depending on which side of Judaism they're coming from, because the Talmud is about division. The Zohar is the anti-Talmud. It is the book of unity and splendor and taking, the mysticism, taking it into the spiritual realms, understanding, God from another perspective. The Talmud is all about these laws and, got to do this way. If you don't do it that way, should you crack an egg on the Sabbath? Should you not? And that's where these viewpoints of reincarnation come in, because they all believe in reincarnation, but they're not really sure about, this one could come back as a stone or an animal, or and so the one thing you said in this book, I prove this very reason, that not everybody comes back the same. Okay. And this explains why some people feel like, like the male female thing, the gender thing, like that's not, it's like, oh, well, you could be a man in one life and a woman in another life, and then come into this life and think, oh, maybe, this explains homosexuality, why some people feel this from a young age, like they were born this way. I'm sure you've heard them say that, and that's because of their past lives. So there's no rule there. Okay. It all has to do with the soul. And the same thing with being a Jew, being a Christian, being a Muslim, whatever. So in my book, I prove that you can be a Jew in one life and come back be reincarnated into a Christian family in another life, because one of these, it's a very famous, documented, scientifically documented reincarnation, which is this woman Barbaro from Sweden, who is the reincarnation of Anne Frank from the Holocaust. So her story is astonishing. As a young child, she had all this detail. And her parents looked, and at first they thought it was just her imagination, just a child going on. And then when they took her to Amsterdam, she knew every stone. She led them to the house, which is now a tourist attraction, up the stairs into her old room, and said to everyone, including the tour guide, "Where are my pictures?" that she used to put on the wall. And that was the moment when the penny dropped. The parents and then the tour guide was like, "Oh, pictures, how did you know about that?" And they took them down because people were touching them, and they wanted to put them under glass to preserve them. And she was there in that interim. So that was when they knew she was telling the truth. And then they went to these doctors and this and that. And it's kind of a known, like, solidified reincarnation story, which proves that a Jewish girl can come back as a Christian. So once a Jew, always a Jew, not necessarily. However, with that said, I need to just insert that because of me, going back and forth from, between being Jewish and believing in Jesus, I will say Yeshua, Jesus, same thing, that I have never felt, that the closest thing to Judaism is Yeshua. So, and a lot of Christians who get really close to the Lord and really press into him, they want to be Jewish. Okay. So only because of the history and because he came out of the tribe of Judah, which is where we get the word Jew from, because I prove that all the 12 tribes of Israel, the tribe of Judah is where the Jew comes from, but all the other tribes were united under this one God. So it's the religion of Judaism, but not necessarily the DNA, okay, or the genetic. And that is this whole story that we're all immersed in. And why they went all over the world, why they got dispersed, which, Jews will say, oh, that this was part of their punishment and persecution. And yes, that's part of the story, but it's also part of the reason that it was by design, because God let that happen so that everyone would be mixing. Okay. So we would all end up like a potpourri, like, a piece of this, a piece of that, so that we can eventually come back together and unify, because that's the will and the purpose and the promises of God is to all have peace and harmony and brotherhood. And it's just like the song, The Age of Aquarius by the Fifth Dimension. I mean, that is the reality of the age to come. Those are the promises of God. So how this is the unique role of the Messiah is to do that, because no one on earth is able to do that. So he's got one foot in one camp, one foot in the other. He's like the bridge, and not just between Jews and Christians and Muslims, but also between the ETs. I go to that level because he said that he has other sheep. Sheep is just a biblical word for people, that he has other sheep from another pasture that he has to go and bring back. So when he returns, we can all be one under one shepherd. And there's the rest of our extraterrestrial family.
So you interpret that as extraterrestrials being
Absolutely.
Those shepherds.
Yes.
Okay, what about intra-dimensionals that you talk about too?
Yes, well, they're inside the earth. So that's what I call the alien presence that have coexisted with us here for millennia. So a lot of what experiencers experience, the abduction experiences are coming from inside the earth. I mean, they're on the moon, they're on Mars,
Yeah,
they're
they're
on,
on the moon. Yeah.
and they're on other, like the moons of Jupiter and other places, and Saturn in the solar system. But they have a stronghold here inside the Earth. The Earth, our planet Earth, it's a very special planet because we have 11 different dimensions that are known, discerned, and I connect these dots in Heaven's Witness with the books of Enoch. So Enoch talked about 10 heavens, and the word heavens and dimensions are kind of paralleling and synonymous. So, and then of course, if you add the surface, our dimension, this third dimension that we're in right now, that would be the 11th one. So and I prove this through scripture, that in the Bible, it talks about heaven and hell inside the earth. And there's different levels of it. So like the place of the, like in Judaism, there's like these 3 words like Sheol, Gehenna, Hades. They're all different levels of the place of the dead. So the grave where people go. And this is like so evidenced in the Tanakh, is like in 2 Samuel, it's like, I am the Lord, I bring you down to the grave, and I am the one that's going to bring you back up and give you life again. I mean, if that doesn't define reincarnation, I don't know what does. Ezekiel 37, the whole entire chapter is the description and the intention and the prophecy, which has been fulfilled, of the reincarnation of the ancient Israelites. So he says to Ezekiel, and they're talking about this dead field with bones. Everyone's dead and they're buried. He says, you see these dead bones? I'm going to bring life to these bones. I'm going to put flesh on these bones. So carne in Latin is flesh, which is where the word reincarnation comes from, because it comes from Latin. But the Hebrew is talking about the whole process of it. After I'm going to put flesh on the bones, then I'm going to breathe my spirit into those bones, and they're going to live again. And not only are they going to live again, they're going to be a great army again. Okay.
Oh, army. Okay, here we go. Let's talk about the present time right now, and what we have between Israel and Iran, Israel and Gaza, and it just seems like the country is so violent and out to control other countries and dominate. How does that fit into what you've been describing to us? Is it?
Yeah. Go ahead.
No, please.
It's the whole thing fits to me. It's like a tapestry. Well, they're all ancient. First of all, Iran in the Bible is Persia. It's referred to as ancient Persia, and Elam. Okay. And let's not forget the Sumerian, contributions that we have, through the clay tablets and what's written in the stone temples. And the Anunnaki set up, they had ancient spaceports there. That's where the temples came from. So they built temples on these spaceports. So that's something that Zecharia Sitchin extracted out of the cuneiform tablets and the stories that were in from the Anunnaki. And Jerusalem, for instance, is an ancient spaceport. And out of all the cities on this planet, that one has been fought over and has changed hands, and every single empire on earth has ruled at one point over Jerusalem. So you have to ask yourself, why? Right? What's so special about it besides, okay, it's got a hill and all of that. It's not all physical. There's another dimension that they're fighting over. So Ephesians 6:12 says, we war not against flesh and blood, but against powers, principalities, rulers of the darkness of this present world, who are the archons, and spiritual wickedness in the heavens. which are the negative aliens. So one of the things that I prove in my books, especially to Christians, because they have this mantra where they go, all aliens are demons. And I say,
know.
no, isn't that annoying? And it's just another form of bigotry that they have to stop. It's not good. It's not healthy for this time.
There's a very well-known experiencer who says that. And I'm not going to say his name,
I
but
know.
it aggravates. I don't know. Do you know who? Let's not say his name. I don't want to say his name because I don't like to promote what he's saying at all.
Right.
I really don't even like to promote him. And I know him. But for instance, he speaks publicly about me telling anybody who wants to listen that I don't talk to ETs, I talk to demons. And yeah, which isn't a cool thing to say, because, you know, the last thing an experiencer needs is to be judged by another experiencer. And this man right now, it's like everyone's fawning all over him right now. They think he has special abilities, but he's also saying at the same time, he's claiming that he's not talking to ETs, he's talking to spiritual beings. And that ETs are demons, and yet the entire UFO world is practically kissing this man's feet. And I'm like, there is such a disconnect here. It's like people only want to listen to part of what he's saying. They don't want to listen to everything he's saying.
Yes, I understand completely. I've written a lot about this. There's a free piece on my blog, spirituallydiscerning.com, that addresses this exact issue. And it's all aliens are demons is what they say. I say this is the truth, is that all demons are aliens, but not all aliens are demons.
Okay, that's good.
Okay. And God created aliens to serve him. And that is evidenced in the Bible. Okay. So if Christians really want to follow the word of God, they have to unpack the scriptures here. The books of Ezekiel describe alien creatures. I mean, so we have to categorize. There's humans, there's angels. So the angels have a whole hierarchy to themselves. These are not angelic beings. These are not humans. And they're not animals. They're alien creatures, and they're created to serve the Lord on his throne, it says, with his spaceships. And it's also, remember I said about the match? It's also in the book of Revelation. So it's a match. So the book of Revelation talks about these alien creatures that are serving the King of Heaven. Okay, so how could they be demons if they're serving God? Okay, so that's what I prove in the writings. So all they have to do is look at it and ask the Holy Spirit to show them the truth, and it's right there. Okay, so, and I also am saying how it's very dangerous to have this mantra that they have in this day and age, where number one, anti-Semitism is up back to where it was during World War II levels. Okay. And that's a whole nother conversation. And to create another form of bigotry is what they're doing by saying all aliens are demons, dismissing and gaslighting every one of us who have had experiences,
including him.
Yeah. So, and that's, and who,
including himself. I mean, it's crazy.
So this is the presence of a spirit that lives inside the earth that is called the Leviathan, twisted serpent, that takes the truth and twists it around. So when Christians get victory over that spirit, which they can have, okay, if they're really walking with the Lord, who has victory over all of these beings, they just need to go to him and get victory over this, which they haven't done yet. So that's why they're at where they're at. That's my opinion in a nutshell. Okay, is that they're not seeing the whole picture. And the other piece, the reincarnation piece, the reason why I wrote this book now is because it's not the be all and end all, but it's a piece of the tapestry in unraveling and unpacking and understanding the end time prophecy. And the end time prophecies talk about reincarnation, especially the reincarnation. This is what got me. How do they miss this? Okay. All the people, okay, the story of Christ and all the people who conspired to crucify Yeshua, okay, and that includes the Romans who carried it out, the Pharisees who wanted to get rid of him because he was threatening their power, and the proletariat, the people who were given a choice between Barabbas and Yeshua, and they picked Barabbas, all those people. And the scripture tells us, Matthew 25 says that when they said that, when they picked Barabbas over Yeshua, they all immediately felt this guilt come over them. And they all said, and it's spoken and it's written in the scripture, oh, now his blood will be upon us and our children and our children's children. That is the definition of a generational curse. So they understood that. Suffice to say, all those people involved in the conspiracy to crucify Yeshua are dead, right? Can we agree with that? That happened over 2,000 years ago. How are they on the earth at the end of the age, watching him return and mourning on the one whom they pierced? That scripture is repeated 3 times, one in Zechariah, one in Isaiah, and again in the book of Revelation. So that is an end time piece that involves reincarnation. There's only one answer, how all those people could be on the earth at the end of the age when Yeshua returns, and that's reincarnation. So Christians miss that. And then, of course, the Antichrist. So And this is odd, okay? This is another kind of like hypocritical irony, is that they reject reincarnation, yet they will say, the Antichrist is going to be the reincarnation of Nimrod. Okay, well, if you don't believe in reincarnation, then how did you get there? So who is Nimrod? So I go, who is Nimrod? Well, Nimrod was the Lord of Babylon, right? But who was manifesting in Nimrod? Who was the real Lord of Babylon? According to the stone tablets, it was Marduk. Okay, Marduk was the Lord of Babylon and the Lord of Nibiru. Okay, and Mars. That's why they named Mars after him, Marduk. Okay, so who's coming back? It's not Nimrod. It's Marduk. Who's going to have this showdown? Where in Armageddon with the King of the universe, with the King of heaven, who is the Messiah King? In Hebrew, it's called Moshiach Nagid, which means Messiah King. So he's not just any Messiah; he's like a king. All right, and so there's a showdown. That's the final battle.
Okay, so you brought up Mars. So you're implying that he lived on Mars, that there was population on Mars, there was life on Mars?
All of the above. Mars was kind of like another Earth at one point.
What do you think of Scientology? And if I'm not mistaken, that a planet blew up and people had to save themselves, so they exited that planet, they left that planet, they had to run away or they were going to die, and they came to Earth. Do I have that right?
Yeah, I mean, it's part of the
possible.
Well, I mean, I believe it. I'm not a Scientologist. Let me just put that out there.
Yeah, I just find that very interesting.
But that theory is not just limited to Scientology, because it is in the ancient mix. So what happened in our solar system? Immanuel Velikovsky. So he was pen pals with Albert Einstein. So they wrote back and forth in the 1950s. He wrote a book called Worlds in Collision. And through physics, he was able to discern, and what now our NASA telescopes have confirmed, about our solar system. And that the asteroid belt, which is between Mars and Jupiter, was once a planet, and it exploded, and that's why it's now stuck in this orbit between Mars and Jupiter. And it's in the Bible. So the story about this is in the Bible. So we know that this happened. And why did this happen? So I unpack this in my book, The Heavens, which is all about Nibiru, because we have this other system that comes through, intersects into our solar system roughly every 3,600 years, 3,567 to be exact. But time gets manipulated each time it comes through, changes time, has Earth changes, there's changes in the solar system, and there's these other moons that go with it that sometimes collide into our solar system, which creates all these changes. So Velikovsky basically discerned this, that was how the asteroid belt got there. So this idea of a broken up planet that got exploded or broken it's not limited to Scientology. And, in all of these belief systems, people take pieces of this and that and put it together. So,
yeah. Plus the founder was a science fiction writer. So do you have that?
Yeah. That. Right.
All right. The time is up. It was so fast.
That's cool.
And we just like barely even scratched the surface. Please tell us if you have other books coming out or what you're working on, where people can find you, how someone can get in touch with you.
Thank you, Sev. Yes, I'm at who'swhointhecosmiczoo.com. There's a contact page, comes to my email. I'm on Facebook. All my books are available on Amazon worldwide. And I have a new book coming out this summer called Finding Freedom When Horses Don't Fly. How to break generational curses and heal trauma. And so this has been my journey.
That's important. That's a very important thing. And there are people working on that right now, trying to heal generational trauma, because we all have it. I don't think there's a single person that doesn't have this.
Right.
And how do you pinpoint what your trauma was? Or do you even have to?
Well, psychology, they call it the family trance. And so the Bible calls it a generational curse. I'm connecting it and saying it's one and the same. And it's one thing to deal with, wounds and things psychologically, but we also have to go into the spiritual component, because that's usually what's holding people back. So once you deal with the spiritual legal ground of the issues, the traumas, all the stories that we all come out of, then healing begins to have freedom.
I know, but it just seems almost impossible, because there's so many levels and so many dimensions and so many beings and so many realities and so many lives. And why is being a human why are we so stupid?
Well,
really?
We've been dumbed down. We got downgraded
by the Anunnaki.
It's like maybe 5-10% of our brains, so that's why. But
when you said this was one of my questions. When you said the Anunnaki dumbed us down, well, how does that happen? Through hybridization? Through just like a magic wand? I mean, that must have taken a while.
No, not a magic wand. It was hybridization. And, the Bible tells us that there's other star seeds, other seeds that are living on the earth, bloodlines, and they list them by name. I have them all in the book Cosmic Slingshot, because they get to reincarnate on earth. So this gives us insight into why certain groupings are like constantly problematic, like the Middle East, like the whole history of Iran and Israel and all of these countries that are, constantly having problems. A lot of this has to do with these bloodlines. So the Bible calls them Raphaim, Anakim, which is similar to the word Anunnaki. There's Nephilim seed, there's Satan seed. This is what's written. Okay. And when you look at this and you go, oh, well, that makes sense why some people are like not human. Like there's certain things that people do to other people that in my book is not human. That's alien. That is like something totally like that comes out of some, horror picture or dark star or something like that. And it's true. It does. The Zohar talks about this, the dark stars, the death stars, the dragon. So when you say like, oh, there's so many different types, there are, and where do we go? I see myself as a spiritual Karen. It's a joke.
Yes.
I go straight to the top. Okay. I go straight to the Lord. I talk straight to the King, and that's it. No intermediaries, no in-betweens, straight there. And that's how we're all going to come together. And people don't get that right now because they're protesting kings and thinking that we don't have, we're coming into, this is a clash of two kingdoms on earth. There's the kingdom of heaven and then the kingdom of what I call the draconian empire, the reptilian kingdom, and they're a stronghold and they're holding on. Okay. And until the Messiah comes and restores all things, we are going to all be under one king. And that's the millennial reign. That's the age to come. That's the age of Aquarius. And that's when this phantasmagorical mothership that is described in Revelation 21 as the city, the holy city, the new Jerusalem, literally comes out of the heavens, lands on a scorched earth. 12 gates open up. Each one of those gates are named after the 12 tribes of Israel, which is all of us. We're all part of that. Okay.
Whether you're a Jew or not.
Has nothing to do with Judaism. It has to do with ancient Israel coming back together. It's a spiritual as well as, the physical, and everyone comes back through this Messiah. He is the bridge. The Messiah is the King.
This helps explain the intense hatred in the Middle East. For those of us who are not there, that we just don't get it. It's like, why? Why do they hate each other so much that they have to blow each other up off the planet? And maybe even the players might not even fully understand. But what you're saying is it's so deep. It's Earth history as well as extraterrestrial history. And it's very complicated. And does anybody really know? Does anybody really know exactly why there is so much hatred in the Middle East? And why does it seem to be confined to the Middle East? Yes, there's wars in other places too, but the Middle East is just endless, the hatred.
Yes, it's portals. Suffice to say, there's a lot of ancient space portals that are still open, and they're fighting over that in other dimensions.
Space portals.
Their seed is on the earth. So they have spiritual legal ground through the covenant of marriage, birthrights, that they seeded the planet long ago. And this is part of their, back and forth, the battles of
It'll
power.
go on forever until you're saying
the Messiah is going to end it. He comes and ends it all. It says that, there's World War III, which is kind of already happening. Yeah. And then there's Armageddon. Armageddon is the final battle. Okay. And that's when it all ends. So it ends with the intervention of an ultra-terrestrial who is the king of the universe. And he takes his place on Earth. Okay. And
what's he waiting for?
Well, there are some things that have to be fulfilled and unfold because he is allowing all this stuff to happen to prove an eternal point.
Which is?
One, that we need a savior. We need a Messiah. We need someone to resolve all these ancient issues. We can't do it by ourselves. And anyone who thinks that, whatever, delusions of grandeur. And that's where this Antichrist figure comes in, because he is a counterfeit Messiah. And this is where discernment comes in at the end of this age, because we have to exercise this muscle that we're not used to using. And there's a mass deception. And the end time prophecy talks about catastrophic disclosure. So, we can wait and until the
Oh,
cows come home, till for the U.S. government to tell us everything that's happening.
no.
But I would say don't put all your eggs in one basket, because just like everything else that's come out of the Middle East, so will disclosure. And the end time prophecy, it actually says this, that they're going to come out of the sea and out of the earth. Okay. We're
In the
going
Middle
to,
East.
well, all over the planet, but yes, it comes out. That's what the Bible says. And the Middle East is going to be, a lot of stuff is coming. In my fourth book, Covenants, I have these stories of these beings coming and going out of these portals in Israel, modern day Israel. Okay. So modern day, like MUFON Israel, like they have these stories that these people that they see, like Elijah's cave, for instance. So Elijah was a frequent flyer. He came and he went, he never died. He ascended, but he would come and go and come and go. So Elijah's cave seems to be a portal, because that's where they have crashes. So there's like, why are they crashing there? Why are they crashing on the beaches of Shikmona? And why are the people who live in these villages seeing these giants? Okay.
Yeah.
Being giant humans coming and going, disappearing.
We didn't even get to the giants. We didn't get to most of everything you talk about.
Well, it's all in the books, if anyone.
Okay, here's the current book that's out right now. We talked a lot about this one today. It's a really nice cover too.
Thank you.
So is this like a textbook, or does it read like a story?
Well, it's nonfiction, so it's a lot of research. But I wouldn't call it a textbook, but you could if you want to. But it's just explains things biblically, historically, and scientifically. Those are the three levels I prove that reincarnation is real. From the science, and there's a government. The CIA studied it for 3 decades. I have a whole chapter on the Gateway Project, where yes, so they hired remote viewers to go look at a certain location. They were given orders to give, and they ended up giving information of another time. They tapped into past lives. So that's when they put all this money and research, 3 decades into it, to get information from the past that could help them. And that's wisdom.
And the future.
And the future is
there is a belief that there are certain people in the government that can see into the future. There's a word for that, something mirror. Do you know what I'm talking about? No.
The chronovisor?
I haven't heard that word before. What is that?
That's a device that, so the Vatican has it. Andrew Basiago, who was one of the time travelers, was allowed to look at it as a reward for what he did in Project Pegasus and the Mars Jump Room. All this is in that first book that, Who's Who in the Cosmic Zoo. And so it's a device that is able to look into the past, but not the future. So they were able to look at the crucifixion. Okay. And they were able to, and he saw it. He saw through the chronovisor, the crucifixion and the resurrection of Yeshua coming out of the cave, when the stone was turned. He saw all that. And it was like on this black and white kind of film. So they were able to look, and it's called the chronovisor. And
on film?
It's on. Yep. They were able to film it. And he watched it. He witnessed. His story is amazing, and he was used as a young child in this program.
Whoa, okay, I had never heard that before. And maybe they can't see the future because the future isn't fixed.
That's a good point. And they keep shifting the timeline. Yeah, they're able to manipulate time. This is one of the reasons why I don't make predictions like dates, right? Because the dates they manipulate the timeline, the dates keep changing. But this is, the overall end time prophecy is almost written like a script. So it doesn't matter, like if it's on this day and this, you say, what day is Nibiru? Like Nibiru is not a day. Nibiru is a 7-year period of this coming around our sun and going around and coming through the solar system. It's going to take 7 years. It's not a day. So that's something they can't change. Like that train has left the station. It's going to happen. But they have the ability to shift certain things in our reality to make us think, oh, this is happening. That's one of the reasons why Jeremy Corbell, who was given this information about 2027, said to his producer, I don't want to say that date because they're just going to come and change it. You know what I mean? So there is manipulation of time, the manipulation of the calendars. My 6th book, Heaven's Witness, is all about that and how they've manipulated the calendar, and they deleted 200 years. Okay, so if you put those 200 years back, we are much further along than we think we are. And maybe that's by design. Maybe that's because they don't want us to think things are going to happen. They want to keep the status quo, the same, thinking and reasoning behind the UFO cover-up, the truth embargo, is the same behind the Nibiru stuff. Because we know that that's real. We're seeing it in the space telescopes, right? And it's written in stone and it's cyclical. It comes around. So that's something I don't think can change. And the same thing with the coming of the Messiah King. And I was told that he is returning. His return will coincide with Nibiru. Not that he comes from Nibiru, but that's how it all cuts, like a confluence. It comes together. Okay. Because the earth gets, it's going to be hard. Scorched. Scorched. Fire.
Like you said. Yeah. So that's Armageddon. So Armageddon's coming. And it has to come in order for this mother all spaceships to land, because you said it was going to land on scorched earth.
Yes. And that begins the age to come, which is the ascension.
We're all going to be dead.
We're going to get reincarnated. If those of us who are written in the book of life will get reincarnated into the age to come in the glory bodies. Forget these bodies. We're going to live to be 1,000 again.
Yeah.
1,000. Imagine that. There's ETs that look like they're 35 and they say they're 1,400 years old. Like, what's your secret?
I don't know if I want to live on Earth for 1,400 years. Maybe somewhere else. Maybe another planet that's nicer.
Well,
but to live here for 1,400 years.
The final prophecy is this age to come, this millennium, which is the age of Aquarius, and the Earth gets lifted up. So it's the ascension, it's true ascension, and the curses are broken. So imagine that.
So it'll be a nice place.
Yes, it's heaven on earth. It's like when heaven comes to earth.
Yes, that's why you wrote that. Oh, yes.
That's the final one, the final piece.
Ella, thank you. This is like, yeah, I felt like, do you see smoke coming out of my brain? Because there was a lot going on there. It's wonderful. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you for having me, Sev.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Thank you, everybody, for watching. And if you want to get in touch with Ella, it's what's your email?
Who's Who in the CosmicZoo.com. There's a contact and it'll come straight to my email.
Okay. And all your books are on Amazon?
Yes.
Okay. Well, good luck with everything. And I look forward to talking to you again.
Same here.
Thank you so much. All right.
Thank you.
Bye.